Hi guys, welcome back to Trash It. So on today's episode of Trash It, we've got Karima in the house, we've got Antonia, we've got Sade, we've got Funshaw, and we've got my co-host Yuri. So the topic we will be trashing today is looking at how children in Europe and children in Africa or in the Caribbean are brought up, and just to compare it, because I think we've all heard there was a video that we all saw last week that was making its rounds on WhatsApp, and it was a 17-year-old girl. She's a Nigerian girl from Croydon in the United Kingdom. The way she was talking to her father in a very disrespectful manner. But anyway, we're just gonna play a little bit of that video, of that voice note for you guys to listen to, and then we know we don't have the full picture. We know we don't. You're not gonna listen to the whole voice note because it's almost 12 minutes long, if not more. So just a few minutes of it, just for you to know where we're coming from.
Anything to eat? No, she hasn't.
I've been calling her since
The phone
morning.
has not been going through. Whose problem is that? The phone is not going through. What can she do? Nothing. The phone is not going through. She came back yesterday. She had nothing to eat.
What are you telling me?
She had nothing to eat.
I sat down there, came back from work.
Yes, the phone is, she doesn't want the food. She doesn't want to eat that food. Is that her problem? No. It's not her problem. She doesn't like the food. But there's nothing to eat. She can.
But you were here when I was asking her, what does she want to eat?
No.
She said she knows what she will eat.
No.
I said, Rihanna, come downstairs.
No, because there's nothing to eat anyway.
Okay, Nicole, give me the list. Let me go and do the shopping now. Give me the list.
Close the door. 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 Just close the door.
Rihanna, you're not sleeping. Just tell me what you want. Let me go and get it.
What do you mean what I want? Who cares, man? He just sits around and gossips like a woman.
Nicole, what did you say?
I said you're gossiping like a woman. That's what you do.
I am gossiping like a woman.
That's all you do.
Shame on you.
Shame. I don't care if you say shame on you. That's all you do. Literally gossip like a woman. Mate, I really don't care who you video. I don't really care who you talk to. You can video if you want to. Me, I can also video. And then what now? What's gonna happen after? I don't really care. That's really all you do.
For 2 years, you haven't been to school.
No, shut up, because you're saying 2 years.
Did you go to school last year?
2 years. 2 years. What do you mean I haven't been to... Don't talk about what you don't know, please. You come here with your big head, you think that you know everything. You don't know nothing. Don't come and say 2 years out. Don't talk about what you don't know, please. Don't talk about what you don't know about I haven't been to school in 2 years. You don't know nothing about what are you really don't know what you're talking about, so really don't talk. Talking complete rubbish about I haven't been to school in 2 years. Don't talk rubbish, please. Don't talk rubbish. Don't talk rubbish. Because please just don't talk rubbish. I don't know what you're talking out of your whatever, but you're talking very much rubbish. Don't talk about what you don't know about I haven't been to school in 2 years, please. Have you even been here for 2 years to talk about I haven't been to school in 2 years?
I have all the reports.
No,
I have all the reports.
Bring them then.
So why did you lie to your head, Miss Josephine? Why do you lie to her that you have your A levels when you don't have it? Your O levels.
Huh? I never said that. Don't lie.
I have the reports.
Don't lie.
I have the reports.
Don't lie.
So, having heard that video, we want to look at how children are brought up in Europe and how children are brought up in Africa. Now, I believe most of us here were brought up in Africa, right? Before we all traveled to Europe, because I know none of us are in Nigeria at the moment, but we know Karima. Karima is from Karima, what island are you from?
I was born in the UK, but I was sent home to be educated.
Okay.
And for discipline.
Well, there you go. Okay. So we all have a taste of our culture and what it's like to have respect for your elders and all of that. So we've all heard the video. Let's just dive straight into it. So let me come to you first, Karima. Given that you're the only Caribbean person on this panel, you heard the video. What do you make of it? Would you ever speak to your parents like that, regardless of what the circumstances were? And how would you feel if your 17-year-old daughter was speaking to you or her father in that manner?
Yeah, I wouldn't be alive to even talk about this topic if I spoke to my mum. My mum was the worst. I wouldn't even have never even spoken to my dad like that. I would never. Or my grandparents, because I was raised by my granddad. I just wouldn't. I think just that fear. I mean, I'm 40 now and I couldn't even raise my voice too much to my mum. I mean, I remember once I shouted at my mum and then I ran off and she chased me because I knew I was going to get it. But, you know, you can test the boundaries. But I think if you set very clear boundaries with children, that if you test the boundaries, there will be repercussions. You don't say it, there really will be repercussions. You kind of know never to test the boundaries again, because everybody tries to test those waters, maybe even once. But in Caribbean, you're gonna get a good beating.
So what if you're doing it in defense of another parent, for example, and maybe your father hasn't really been there? Because a lot of people that have listened to this voice note, they said that, well, the girl sounded like she was sticking up for her mother, and it also didn't sound like her father had been there all her life because of the things that she was saying. So does that still give her the grounds to speak to the father the way she did?
No. And times have changed now. I mean, I would say back in the Caribbean, they're still giving the kids licks in school. You know, when you're living here in the UK, it's very, very different. And there are laws in place to protect children. But at the same time, parents then have to find other ways to discipline their children. It doesn't always work when you're beating your children anyway. It makes them more aggressive. For some, it makes them very fearful of you. There are other ways to get respect from your children. And I think she had no right to be speaking to her dad in that way if he's living in the home with her, that the mother was obviously, it sounded like, because I didn't see a video, I heard a voice note. It sounded like to me, this is a very hurt child, but all her anger is aimed at the dad. So we don't know the full story. There's obviously been some kind of conflict within that family and there's unresolved issues between her and her dad. She has no respect for him whatsoever. None whatsoever. But he is the father. He's the parent. He shouldn't have been recording her anyway. He should have addressed the situation from the very beginning and nipped it in the bud, because she was allowed to go on a rant and he was just recording her. For what purpose? Okay. He's the parent. What did it serve? None at all, other than to circulate in social media. Yeah. So I think he hasn't set the boundaries with that girl, as if he's afraid of her. And that must mean he knows he may have done something wrong and he's just trying to make it right. But at the same time, that means she has no boundaries. Anything goes. She can say anything to him. So no, I think him as the parent was very weak there. He did the wrong thing by recording her.
All right. Thank you very much, Karima. Antonia, let me move to you, because I see you're swiveling in your chair. You're smiling. Like, what's going through your mind right now?
Okay, Karima. Karima answered our home question by saying that, you know, beating your child is not the right way because they turn out to be aggressive. Mm-hmm. When I listened to that voice note, I saw a girl or a child that's been through so much. I had kind of a child that's been through trauma, a child that possibly has experienced abuse herself, possibly from the dad himself. And to be honest, that is her dad recording that voice note. To me, it wasn't because he was scared. It was because he was trying to defend himself. It seems to me as if maybe social care was already involved and he wanted to have some evidence of some sort to say she's the one being aggressive, because he could hear from me. At one point, you could hear the tone in his voice when he said, you, I don't want to call the child's name. And he kept repeating it. It was as if on a normal day, I would
beat you,
punch your head out, or do something to you. You know, that child, to me, I mean, like I said, I don't know the full picture. You know, she is trying to defend herself. I think she possibly has been through so much already from this dad. Possibly she may have witnessed, you know, domestic abuse. I don't know. But I mean, we need to look at the other side of the coin and kind of think from her perspective. Why would any child want to be this aggressive? Why would any child, you know, the first conversation was about food not being at home. You know, and at first when I started with the record, I was thinking, okay, why didn't you cook? But when I went on and I listened more and I could hear the underlying comments from what she was saying, and it seems as if maybe food is usually not at home. Maybe she's used to fending for her sister and for the family. Maybe this dad actually sits there all day doing video and listening to WhatsApp and not being the dad that it should be. That child has been through a lot. If you have a healthy family unit, you're more than likely not going to get a child like that. So Karima was brought up properly. Hence why she can't repeat those words that that child said to her parents. So when you have a dysfunctional family setup, that's the result.
Okay, thank you very much, Antonia. Interesting. Shade, let me come to you. I mean, I know you're liberal, but would you be that liberal to just sit there and watch your son or your daughter give it to you, insult you, and all because you know that, because we're in Europe, social services may get involved, you're just sitting back and taking it?
Yes, I'm liberal, but that child is disrespectful.
Hmm.
There's no excuse. And like I can't remember what
Karima.
the other lady.
Antonia?
Sorry, Antonia, like what you said, there's a problem with that household. There seem to be a lot of for me, I feel like the father has failed, and not just the father, the mother as well has failed because there's a broken down relationship, marriage, and I don't think the dad has always been in her life. So she has no regard for him or whatever he's saying. And like you said, social services have been involved when she was 17 years old. That's probably seen a lot. So, well, having said that, I couldn't finish the voice note. It was disrespectful. It was heartbreaking for me because I come from a very strict home.
Mm.
Even while I'm in the UK, if he's talking to me on the phone, I am like sober. Like, okay, even if I'm not going to do what he asks me to do, I would never tell him that I would not do that. So where I come from and how I raise my own boys, I doubt they will ever speak to me like that. No, they would never. So there's something wrong there. And I think it's because the dad hasn't been in her life or hasn't shown her love or doesn't care. So suddenly you're now acting like a father. So she's like, where have you been?
Mm.
You're saying, where have you been? What were you to talk to? But even at that, it's disrespect. I couldn't listen to it all.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Shade. Funcho, let me come to you. So this is very relatable to you because you have two daughters and you're a father. Now, if you were in the position of the man, what would you do? And obviously, perhaps given the circumstances surrounding the situation that we've been speculating, maybe the man has not been in her life for that long. Maybe he hasn't really been the father figure that she wanted or that she deserved. But does that give her the right to still speak to him the way she did? So how would you, if this was you, how would you handle this?
Yeah, firstly, everybody has spoken well. I even like the fact that Antonia touched in the sense that if you have not walked in the lady's shoes, you might not really know what's happening in that family. Now, what has been done has been done. Everybody say she's disrespectful and the man has not been there. What has happened has happened. What I would do if I find myself in that kind of situation is I would have to emotionally invest in the child. I'm going to show her more love and bring her closer. That way, I can gradually, when she eventually trusts me and believes in me, I can gradually now try. It's going to be hard because for a 17-year-old, she has been constantly passing through a certain mode for all her life. So now you wanted to change it, there will be resistance. So it's going to take a lot, but if you are persistent with it, you are patient enough, and you show her love, and you are there because I kept hearing you've not been here even up to 2 years. Yeah, that means the man has been absent in the entire story in their life. So that's one of the reasons why she doesn't have regards for the father. Probably is irresponsible. Probably I don't know. I don't just give any whatever. But the bottom line is, if you show her love, you tell and let's do the trust. Trust can be earned. Let's and you let her trust you. Then from there you can now try to start bending things, and persistence is the key word. Love, persistence. It may change. You get. So if I'm in that situation, that's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yuri, let me come to you.
I think there's a lot of things that needs to be unheard here. And another issue is the environment. Back in Nigeria, I don't know for everyone, but sometimes the fathers are not always in the picture. Their mothers do raise them. And I don't think a lot of children have this much anger towards their father for not being present. That being said, it's a very disrespectful voice note. No matter how bad it is, there's sometimes parents are not there. They're the bone of your problem or the issues. I don't think I would have it in me to call my father a bastard. I can't. I don't. No matter how. Let me give you, like, my dad is a journalist. He travels, or he used to travel while we were growing up. So there was a time he was in Germany for like 3 years. There was a time he was not around. My mother raised us. So that doesn't mean he wasn't a father, but I couldn't. There's some times where I wish he was around to do certain things with us. But that didn't give me the leverage to not look him in the face and call him a bastard for not being around. So, like I said, there's so many issues here. The child's upbringing, the environment that she's kind of growing up in, that they have at 17, you have the confidence, the chest to actually call your father a bastard, irrespective of how useless of a man he is. That's another issue. So I feel for the child, because this is why you see some girls that have daddy issues. For this girl to be sorted out, it would take a lot of counseling, because our foundation is so wrong. Our foundation is so dented. There's so many issues that cannot even be fixed. Forget their relationship for now. Let's think about this young girl in question. This is a damaged young person. And it will require a lot of intervention for her to even relate, because one, she's never going to trust a man. That she'll continue to relate that back to the relationship she's had, or she's having, or she's had, or going to have with her father. And another lady was in the voice note, which I think that's her mom. So maybe the mom is unwell, because he keeps saying, oh, she can't go and shop, she's not well. So food is an issue. Finances is an issue. The man sits on the phone and he's talking about her. Recording her could be an evidence to say, well, I'm trying with this child. Because in as much as useless the man was, he kept saying, give me the list. Let me go do some shopping. Let me go do something. And she goes, get out, blah, blah, blah. I can't even believe that's her father.
Yeah. And the man said, yeah, go on, Karima.
I think all of that was just a game. For him to record and say, give me the list and all of that, I think, and she, as you listen to her carefully, she anticipated that anyway. You're recording me, that's what you do. Well,
Karima,
she didn't have the time for that. She was very disrespectful, but if you listen to what she was also saying, although it was in a disrespectful manner, there's also some valid points in there where she was saying, you're the father. You should be able to go and get the shopping, The fact is, he did cook food. They didn't want to eat the food. I said to my mum, I don't want the food that you cook. She'd tell me to starve. She's not going to buy nothing for me to eat. So,
Karima,
there's like this. I feel like the dad set that whole thing up, which she anticipated it anyway, because she said that in the voice note. You gossip. You're like a woman.
Yeah.
Group and all she anticipated it anyway. So I feel like if it wasn't being recorded, the situation may have unfolded a lot differently. He kind of played the victim. He played the victim. And you know what? She didn't care. She's like, record me, whatever. She was done. She'd had enough. It was as if she's fighting to be the adult, really. Like she feels like, I'm telling you, I'm angry at you. I need you to be a responsible father. You're talking things you don't know. You haven't been here. That angry girl, but was very, very, very disrespectful. And he didn't step in to even tell her, you know what? Stop. I know you're hurt, but let's sit down. Let's talk about this. You don't want to give me you don't want to tell me what to get for the shopping. I'm going shopping. If I bring back things you don't like, don't say I never asked you to get the shopping. I'm going to try to do the best that I can do. But he carried on recording her, and he carried on agitating her. And you know what? She didn't care. She just knew he was going to do that anyway.
You know what, Karima? I beg to disagree in the sense that you and I have worked with some very disturbed children.
Yeah.
And there's some circumstances where you do need to record them. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but you've seen parents when they've done that out of actually safeguarding themselves. Because we've had a situation where a child has actually beat his dad up to a pulp, to the state that he put his dad in a chokehold. And assuming that people didn't come in, the police were not there this child would have killed the father. And the only thing that the mom could do, apart from calling the police, was to record that situation. So we've got some children that are unfortunately are so damaged that sometimes parents do safeguard themselves with this recording. Like, I'm doing the best I can.
But you see the difference, Yuri.
No, I
the
understand
mother
that.
was recording the son attacking the dad. But the dad has set the scene himself. He's gone to her room and he started to record and he set the scene himself. So it's subjective to me. Because would he have reacted in that way, that calm and collected way, if he wasn't recording?
But we don't know, because obviously
I feel like he wouldn't have done.
We've got 12 minutes voice note. We don't know if this is the MO. This is how they relate in their house. I mean, this might unearth a lot.
You can definitely tell that's not the first time she's spoken to him like that.
This is not the first time. So the guy this might be the catalog. And sometimes, you know how parents get, especially when you go to churches, and I've seen situations where parents come and they'll report their children in church and be like, why are you reporting your child? Why? You can't deal with your own child. You have to now bring a community of people. And I think it speaks to us as a person, because sometimes we think that a village needs to raise a child. That could be another issue. A lot of African parents do this. They will go and report you to the pastors, and the pastor's wife, and the deacon and the deaconesses, everybody will now do a congregation of talk over your head. Sometimes the child just wants to relate with their parents.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me nicely into the other part of this, right? So I when I initially watched the video, I thought she was defending her younger sister, right? But then I think it was my husband that said, no, that's not her younger sister, that's her mother. I don't know if anybody else thought that, right? So he made me believe that that was the mom, and she was defending her mom against the father, and maybe, he makes the woman do everything at home and all of that. So let me just ask you guys, and Shade, let me come to you first. As a mother, you hear your daughter or your son speaking to your husband in such a disrespectful manner, all in the name of that child defending you. Would you let that sit? Would you let that ride, or would you do something?
I actually feel sorry for the man, and I don't honestly think that it was recording it because it was like a show for him. I think he's just trying to cover himself, because remember that one, she's a young lady as well, and I don't think he's been in her life, or maybe he's done something to her mom. She might be defending her mom. It actually looked like if you're a first daughter, it's like a relationship you have with your dad that you have an issue with. So sometimes you are like the girlfriend of our dads, because we're like the wife, the first daughter. So it's like she's hot. He's done something to our mom or to them. He's not been there. There's more to this story. So suddenly you want to play that. So she's defending her mom and herself. She's emotionally involved. She's really, really hot. And to your question, not with my partner right now, but my kid would never disrespect their dad in front of me. That's the kind of mother I am. It's something to do with you. Whatever happened is between your dad and I. You don't get involved. Even though we say that if you're living together, kids tend to see all this tension and all this stress and the fights and all that. So they do have their own mind. I always say discuss with them as well, but tell them not to get involved. The relationship with your father is your relationship with your father. Whatever happened between me and your dad is nothing to do with you. So no, I would not let my son or sons disrespect that. No, I feel sorry for the man. I love my dad, and it was very painful to watch. I couldn't finish the video. I couldn't. I was just crying.
Yeah. Funsho, let me come to you. So what would you do if your daughter was speaking to your wife in this manner, all in the name of defending daddy? What would you do? Would you intervene, or would you clap for her and say, go, yeah, I brought you up right? What would you do?
So I'm not perfect, but just to put this out there, I doubt that would ever happen to my children, because it has to do with the foundation. Right from when they start to know their left hand from their right hand, you have to start correcting them and guiding them the right way. I was telling someone that babies are like, how do I put it? They come in without nothing in their head.
Yeah.
You now have to start imprinting how life is into their brain as they grow up. So the job should have been done from a long time. Yeah. Now, having said that, there is no room for that in my house. You cannot disrespect your mom and I stay and watch. You cannot defend. Did I say I can't defend myself? Even if I can't defend myself, it's not your place to defend me. Because much as we are in the Western world and all those things, I still hold my Yoruba traditional values high. So how would it sound in public to hear that my daughter is disrespecting her mom and I was there and I didn't do anything? It doesn't, for the aesthetics alone, it doesn't look well. It means I failed as a father. And no, I wouldn't want that kind of thing to happen. So there is no room for it. I will defend myself. If I cannot defend myself, I walk away, or it is not in your place to do that for me. I didn't ask for it. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Antonia, let me come to you. So this scenario, Irene was trying to defend you and she was talking to your husband, I'm defending mommy, you can't do this, you can't do that. What would you do?
I actually thought it was the younger sister she was trying to defend. But you guys saying it's the mom now. I'm not thinking, okay, maybe the mom is ill. Maybe she's bedbound and she can't move because she can't. He said she can't cook. I reflect, she can't cook, And I'm thinking, even when the mom was sick, was this man abusive to the mom? As the mom, for how long has the mom been sick for? Was it something she's observed, and now once she's come of age, she feels okay, I need to stand up for my family. This guy is literally not my father, because if you think about it, the way fathers should behave, especially if she got friends and she see the way their parents behave, so I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, I don't see why the mother should stop her from doing what she's doing. I mean, there are some levels. I mean, some of the things she said, may sound, because of the way we're brought up as Nigerians, for us, it feels that, you can't do that to your mom, you can't do that to your dad. But in reality, when you're in that abuse, you've been abused, your mom has been abused, your sister has been abused, everybody, and there's a perpetrator in your house, hell will let loose. I probably would do worse. I'm sorry. Because it depends. I mean, I still believe that girl has seen the trauma. I could hear from her voice. Hence why I'm standing on this view that, I could do worse if I were in that situation, especially with the circumstances were bad.
I was going to add that what Antonia just said is the only excuse if there has been abuse. You get? So I cannot sit fine, is my father or is my mom, and my dad has been beating my mom blue black all the time, and probably I was growing up, I was too frail or too young, I didn't have enough power to defend my mom. It gets to that point where when I'm man enough, you can't touch her again. I just tell him straight, you cannot touch her again. If there's abuse, I step in. If I'm old enough and I can defend her, at that point, if I'm even rich enough, I just take my mom out of the house. You get? Exactly. But apart from that, if there's no abuse, no trauma, like Antonia just said, maybe it's just wrong or damaged upbringing, then there's no excuse for that.
Okay, so Antonia, let me just come back to you. So we don't know, because we're speculating. We don't know if there's been physical abuse or whatever kind of abuse towards the mother, right? Although from what the girl was saying, we're thinking that there is a possibility that there is the undertone for abuse there. So Antonia, if you were still in Nigeria, I know we're all in Europe, things have changed. We know that there are laws out there for things like this. But if you were in Nigeria, for example, where you know that, you can't talk to your elders in a manner that's not respectful and all of that, is this something that would you be able to do this to your dad in defense of your mom?
That's where we need to, where our culture and our society shuts us up, when we see wrong, because we're boxed in that cocoon of it's acceptable, the men are the be-all and the end-all, they can do whatever they have to, they can abuse it, they can marry 5, 7, 10 wives, that's the society, that's the culture. And unfortunately, we need to adapt to whatever cultures that we're in. I mean, Nigeria, to be specific, as a country, because that's where I'm from, or Africa in general, we have a lot to learn. Do you understand? We being here and being who we are, I mean, a lot of it has got to do with the good foundation that we found ourselves. But trust me, a lot of children and families in Nigeria that has come from an abusive abusive family situation, you see that they end up being abusers themselves, because that's what they used to. They might not defend their mom, but by the time they get married, their wife will be a punching bag. So there are always repercussions for our actions. And we thank God we're in a country where we can then realize, actually, my child cannot be brought up that way. I can be abused as a woman. If my husband is not ready to respect me and respect me for who I am, I can actually move on. And there'll be support for me to be able to do that. But fortunately, in Nigeria, thank God now there are a lot of organizations coming up where people are kind of being supported. But there's that cultural norm of, you must be married, you must stay in that relationship. Your dad is it's just a society, and things are unfortunate. Things has got to change.
Okay, so now that we're in Europe, right? And we know that our upbringing from Nigeria, Africa, Caribbean is different. So are we now saying that it's okay for a child to call a parent out in such a disrespectful manner just because we feel, African culture, Caribbean culture is very oppressive. You're meant to keep quiet regardless of what the situation is. You're meant to respect your elders. So are we now saying that it's okay for any of our 17-year-old child to talk to us in the manner that this girl did without even thinking, okay, well, this is my parent, yeah, even though they haven't been there all my life, but they're here now, and I need to give them some sort of respect? Are we saying it's okay for them to call us out, talk to us in a very disrespectful manner?
I understand what Antonia is saying. I agree with everything she says. I think it's looking at the way that our culture, both African and Caribbean, are very similar, and Asian, with disciplining their children. But when you come to Europe, UK, wherever, there are specific laws in place that prohibit you from basically beating your children. But someone like my mum wouldn't care where she was in the world. If you talk to her like that, you're getting a beating. Yeah. If I'm 40 years old today and I turn around and talk to her, she's gonna lick me with something, a pot, whatever, because she's always been very clear. I'm the mother, you're the child. I'm very clear with my daughter. I'm the mother, you're the child. But I don't parent my daughter in the same way that my mother parented me. If anything, I'll curse her out. Yes, she'll get told off. But if anything, this situation with that young girl, I have seen that with my daughter and her dad due to the difficulties in their relationship. And I tell you what, her dad has tried his best to try and build a relationship with her, but she's been very resistant to that, only because he's trying to make things better with her, but not addressing the issues that she wants him to address. So therefore, they're going round and round in circles. It's a constant battle. But I haven't heard her speak to her dad in that way in front of me. Usually they have a big fallout and I'm not there, and then I'm called and I have to attend to mediate or whatever. But at the same time, if she was to open her mouth and be, sometimes these teenagers, they talk in a certain way because if they go to school and that's how they talk. Sometimes I hear teachers talk to them in that way. And I actually said to a teacher once, you want my child to be respectful to you, but you're talking to them like you're one of the kids. That's confusing. Yeah, that's across the board. It's confusing. There are parents who are friends with their children. I'm not your friend. I'm your mum. If I say no, no means no. They'll argue with me. There's no boundaries. But you're also, what Antonia's then trying to introduce as well, though we're disciplining our children and we're strict, we demand that they have some respect. We should be listening to them as well. Because some children, as I said, she was talking in a disrespectful way. But if you take away the disrespect and unpick it all, she had some valid points. You are the parent. You're the father. What are you doing? Where have you been? You haven't been here. If you want shopping, you don't even know how to do shopping. I was thinking, why is he asking her? It's my money. Let me go and get the shopping. I must know what my kids want to eat and drink. Any one of us in here, when we go do the shopping, we know what we're doing, right? So I was picking up on lots of anger towards this man. Now, I believe the girl Rihanna is her sister. That's who the sister was. She was younger. And she spoke. But I believe she was talking about the mum when she was saying, what can she do? She's just lying down. She can't do anything. She can't cook. I think the mother is sick, maybe in the house. And maybe that's why he's come back into the family home. And this daughter feels like, why are you here? What's your purpose? She's obviously angry. We don't know the picture, but I believe the girl Rihanna is a younger sister, and she was picking up for the younger sister and the mum in the house.
Yeah.
So she's very angry. But I feel like it doesn't matter where you are in the world, whatever culture you're from, you should still be able to have your own values with regards to how you raise your children. Well, obviously don't abuse them. You know, we're not running around beating our kids with stick and slipper and wooden spoons and hangers and all these things. I've had shoes thrown after me, belts, you know, foot up the backside, whatever, you know. But we don't do that with our kids anymore, as much as I would like to with my teenager. Oh my gosh. But at the same time, I remember being raised by my granddad, and I remember coming home saying, oh, I hated a teacher. My granddad was a very calmly spoken man, but I knew he used to beat all the kids when my mum and all my aunts when they were younger, but he changed as a grandparent. He didn't do that with me. And he used to talk to me a lot. He used to talk to me about the Bible. He used to talk to me about his experiences. We used to spend a lot of time in the garden just talking. And sometimes some kids, they respond better if you just try to sit down and have a conversation with them rather than you're screaming and shouting and it's like an argument in the house. So it's just that we can adapt our cultural, what we know as our cultural upbringings, that we're not beating on our children, but we are disciplining them in a different way. It doesn't mean that we're not warranted to be respected. So that's how it is in my household. I said to Celia the other day, my daughter was in the car talking to me a certain way. I pulled her on a dual carriageway. Get out. I don't need to beat you. Come out. You're being very rude. You're going to be 19, but you're not. It's still my child. So she had to get out and she had to walk back to the train station. Yeah. There are some parents that would be in the car and they'd be arguing with the child. I haven't got the time for that. I'm mum. I'm still your mum until I dead. So if you feel like you're grown now, you can get out with your grown self and walk back to the station. Yeah. And come out to the car that I paid for, or the petrol that I paid for, and I would drive home nicely. You can get out. You know, if you don't set those, and she'll remember that when she's older, because my mum did the same thing to me, and she laughed when I told her. She said, remember when you tried to be rude to me and he was in the car and I kicked you out in your ear? I was like, yeah, I remember. And now I've had to do it too much. She said, and my mama said, see, then I thought she left me on the side of the road. But she said, because she wasn't going to put up with being spoken to like that, just because I thought I'm an adult now and I can do that. She still set the boundaries as an adult. No, you cannot. I'm still your mum. You still have to have respect. So it's not even just as a child. That's forever, really, I think. I would talk to my grandmother respect. You don't just become 20 years old and decide, and she's 17, going to be 18, an adult. That's not going to change, I don't think. No, it's not. Dad does something. He has to do something. Yeah.
I think for me is we need to understand something. It's good that you raise your children. If you raise your children, then you won't have issues like this. And there's a program that I watch. It's called Too Posh, Too Poor.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And there was a Nigerian child there that they were interviewing for private school. And this child couldn't look into the face of the head teacher that was interviewing them. And they were like, oh, why are you not looking up? And the mom was like, our culture, we don't look into adults' faces when they're talking because we find it disrespectful. So as a parent and as an African parent, as a Nigerian parent, there's some things that we need to unlearn because they're damaging to our children. You don't necessarily have to box their head into the wall before they can listen to you. You don't have to starve them of food before they can do things for you. So we need to raise our children so we don't have issues like this. Now, to your question, like, okay, we're in Europe, should we then forgo our culture? No, we don't. Because one thing about my child, I keep saying this, and I have just the one. I have worked with her in such a way that parenting is a lot easier. So I don't need to shout. I just need to look into her eyes and she knows what I'm saying. So we need to get to that place where we're present with our children. We need to listen to them. We need to be aware of the laws of the society that we live in because there are consequences, not just them slamming you in the jail for beating your child, but the damage that you are doing to those children. Abusers tend on to be further abuse. Someone being abused tends to be an abuser themselves. Because you can only exhibit what you've learned.
Yeah.
If all I know is to back your head into the wall, then when you have your own children, you can only parent the way you've been parented unless you relearn and just take some things. So I would say not forgo what we've learned back home. We just need to unlearn certain things because it's worked for us the way we've been raised. In some cases, as old as I am, I still can't talk to my parents anyhow. Fear not, fear let me. Like I went to school here. When I went back home to get married, my dad reminded me that my coffee was 7 p.m. This is me that have not lived at home for a long time. And when my in-laws came and they were like, oh, let's go party. I was looking at time, 7 o'clock. I need to go back home. They were like, girl, you're grown. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
But you're in your dad's house. Yeah.
Grown.
I am not that grown. Biko, take me back home, 7 o'clock. I'm by 6:59. The man was waiting by the door. Like, so it helps us even in our day to day. It makes us who we are. It makes us successful. The fact that we have that foundation, a solid foundation. So I don't think we should forgo what we've learned from growing up. There's some things we just need to learn.
Okay,
I tell you obviously we're from the Caribbean, but my daughter had most of her friends were Nigerian friends. Yeah, she would come home and tell me I need to learn to cook fufu and things like that. You know, she'd leave the house and go and find jollof rice, come home, bring the food. I've cooked food. She really adopted well with the Nigerian ways. She'd even speak some of the language.
We love her, don't worry.
I was like, what are you saying to me? And she'd have a lot of friends come over. And when they come over, they would either bow or they say, hello, auntie, to me. Yeah. Now, in our culture, we obviously don't do that. So when Taya went to one of her Nigerian friends' house, she said, hi, hello. And the mother looked at her like, shh. And when the friend took her upstairs, she goes, you just have to bow and say, good afternoon, auntie, in that way. So it's not that I haven't taught her to, but obviously in our culture, we say, good afternoon, hello, how are you? You know, that's how we talk, but it's a different language. In the Nigerian household, they expect from youngers. When she came back downstairs, she said, Mom, I did that. And I said, thank you for having me. Good afternoon. She bowed goodbye. And the woman said to her, oh, lovely child, do you need a lift home or whatever? So it's a completely different reception, you know? But, you know, we're all Black people, but the cultures can be different. And the way that some children behave in a Caribbean, like I always preferred to have Nigerian friends. I always thought they were much more respectful than Caribbean. I'll be honest. I had her friends come here. 2 of them were Nigerian. One was Caribbean like her, and obviously Taya's, you know, my child. And they were talking about tattoos in a Nigerian household. The kids can't have the tattoos, and I already told my daughter she couldn't have tattoos. But her other friend, who's actually adopted by white people, she had adopted white parents. So she was a Black girl, but adopted. So that she's been raised very, very differently in a completely different culture, who was 14 and had a tattoo. She went, well, it's my body. And I told my adopted mum, it's my body. And while she's talking, and I can have, and I don't see why you can't have, it's your body. And I can see my daughter going to her, because I'm looking at her now. My daughter's going like this to her. Stop talking.
Hey, my mom is about to rip you out of this house.
Stop talking. And then her 2 friends went, oh gosh. And I said, excuse me, let me tell you something. You are a child, yeah? You are a child who lives in a household where you don't pay for anything. Everything's paid for you. When you become an adult and you want to mark up your skin, that's your business. But whilst you are a child, under my household, there will be no tattoos going on in here. She looked at me a little bit scared, like, wow, someone hasn't spoken to me like that before. And I was finished. That was it. That's all I needed to say. But my daughter was like, oh, I can't believe you said this in front of my mum. But you could see there were 4 Black girls, but different upbringings.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in all 4 of them from the 2 Nigerian girls knew straight away, no, I couldn't even approach my mum about tattoos. You know? Taya did come and ask me, Mum, are you crazy? So we had that conversation. But some households in cultures don't even ask that question. So you see, you're going to have 4 young Black girls, but all different upbringings, similar cultures.
Okay, just before I move on to the next segment, Yuri, let me just ask you this quickly. I think I asked everybody else. So would you stand for your daughter speaking to your husband the way this child spoke to her father in your defense, claiming that she was defending you? Would that wash?
Even if I was dead and he told you that my spirit allowed it, would you believe it? No. The thing about it is Renee is awfully close to her father. I've always said it. If both of us were to get into the river, chances are I would die because she will save her father. She loves her father. But It's not her place. That is not her place.
Yeah.
Our relationship was in existence before she existed.
Yeah.
I'm able to fight my own battles even if I'm bedridden. So I don't need my child to come and start telling her that. As a matter of fact, let's even say if this was my situation, I don't think that dad will be in the picture.
Yeah.
If the dad is that damaging to my child,
Yeah.
you're not coming back into the household.
Absolutely.
That's it. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, Yuri, because the mother must know that the relationship between her husband and the child is non-existent, right? So the fact that she allowed the man to come back into the home, for me, in a way, she was thinking of her needs more than the needs of the children. And I think she should, because the girl said, you have not been here. You've only been here for what? Less than 2 years. And you think
Not
you can,
even 2 years.
yeah, right? And you think you can tell me what to do. You're talking about my education. He should have had a relationship with the daughter from out of the family home and gradually build on that relationship before he's allowed to move back into the home and start acting like a father. Now, before we round up, let me just ask this question. We've all talked about our backgrounds. We're African, we're Caribbean, and we know that regardless of whether we're in Europe or not, the way we were brought up, to an extent, we're using that to raise our own children, right? Am I right in saying that? Yeah, to an extent. So when you look at the laws that has been set up in Europe with regards to children, you can't beat your child, you can hit your child. The law is very much on the side of the child. And also in that recording, the girl also said, when the father became quite angry at the end, and then she said, what are you going to do? You're going to hit me? I'm going to call the police on you. So again, she knows that if the man moved in a way that she didn't like, she could always call the police and cry wolf, and the girl will be believed. Now, would we say that the laws of Europe, in as much as it's trying to protect the child, but in a way it has also damaged the child? Because when you look at it, most of this, recently I've been seeing a lot of knife crime happening. There were teenagers who chased another, and these are all black children, right? I never really see the white kids doing this. I don't know if it happens, but we just don't get to see the video. But I watched a video of a child that was chased. One boy, he was holding a knife as well, and he was chased by a gang of other guys in the park. There were loads of people in the park, and they stabbed him. I don't know whether he died or not. And again, I watched on the the shade room or whatever it was, Shade Borough, where this woman was crying. Again, her son was stabbed and he actually died. Now, these children are all African Caribbean children. Are we saying that because of the laws that has been put in place, the parents' hands are tied? When the parents see that the child is going astray, there's not much that they can do, because whatever they think they can do, unfortunately, they are not allowed to do it by the law. So Shade, let me come to you first on this. Do you think the laws that have been put in place to protect children are also in a way damaging the children and holding the parents captive to the point where when they see their child doing something and they want to reprimand the child, they're unable to do so for fear of what might happen?
I think, like I said, it depends on that individual, the mom, right? Yes, we are in a society where you can't smack your child, or not you can smack your child, you can't beat your child, or you can, but it depends on how you raise them. I've got 2 sons, and the knife crime, yes, is one of my biggest concerns right now. I'm worried about it because it's getting out of hand. And the way I'm raising my kids, because we've got a mixed relationship. So I'm from Nigeria, the dad is from here and he's white, and the way we sort of blended it together. But my kids knows their boundary with mommy. They can get away with some things with daddy, but they can't get away with mommy. So yes, I've had my almost 7 years of telling me that he will call the police, and I'm like, on who? He's going. If my dad, I said, oh, you will never call the police on your dad, because if you call the police on your dad, you call the police on your mom one day. So, and I'm like, why would you call the police on your dad? Because that's what they have been trained to at school. Is at that age where they say, if your father eats you, call the police. So they think. So it's how you accept that. Because if I'd be like, oh no, don't call the police on your dad. My face automatically changed. I went all Nigeria on him. I'm saying, excuse me, what did you say? Why? I said, if he smacks me, I said, if he smacks you, you would not call the police. Because if he smacks you, he has a reason for smacking you. He wouldn't just smack you for no reason, you know? So I took that off him immediately. But most of the Nigerian moms don't. They're scared. It could be because of their immigration status, or it could be because of how they think the society is. The school social workers will not tell you not to smack your child when he's naughty, or not to set boundaries. They just say don't hurt your child to the point that your child is hurt, or there's a mark, or there's blood and all that kind of stuff. So I think if they know they can push your boundaries, like my son knows me, like Yori, all I have to do is look at his face, and he knows to shut up on necessary. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Antonia, let me come to you quickly. What do you think the laws are doing? Are they helping, or are they making more mess?
I think with laws anywhere in the world, they're good. Obviously people play up on the law as well. So it's that's what law is. In the UK, the law is there to protect us, and that's what the law does. However, we have people that might capitalize on the law to misbehave. Say, for instance, like what Sade said about, the children, because the children are being taught in school to say, your mom shouldn't smack you, your dad shouldn't smack you. If anybody do, you can call 999 or 111. So they know what it is. And like Sade, I think one of the time when that conversation was had with my children, I sat them down and I kind of broke it down for them to say, this is how it is.
In this house,
this is what would happen. I'm not going to smack you. You do your own end of the bargain and I do mine, and we're all happy. But at the end of the day, that's when it comes with foundation. I've had a conversation. This lady, for saying I'll call the police, it could have been, the dad has been abusing her, like I said, and all that stuff has been going on. The police is already involved. And, there's a lot of factors. So that child, that young lady is already broken. It's broken. It's totally irreparable. It's going to be so hard. But like I said, it's the foundation. If you have that conversation, the law is there to protect us. There are a lot of domestic violence cases and all that where the law interferes and protects. But at the same time, you can't help but have that percentage of people that will capitalize on, I'm going to call the police because you smacked me. And some children would kind of build on that to have that behavior. We can't help it, but more than less, I would say the law, it's fantastic that we in this country and we're so secured by what we have here. So
okay, thank you, Antonia. Funsho, let me come to you real quick because we need to round up. So what do you think, is the law giving the children more power that now the parents can't parent the way they would want to?
I want to look at it this way. From the scenario you paint or the examples you gave, majority have been Black communities or Caribbean. And are we asking ourselves, why is it not happening to the white communities? It seems that the same law that applies to the whites and the Blacks, they are using it very well and bringing up their child very well. So why are we, the Black communities, not doing the same thing? And one of the reasons is what Shadi mentioned, immigration status. There might be every other thing attached to it. You get. So what I'm trying to say in essence is this law is to protect the child against abuse. At the same time, it doesn't curb we parents from bringing up our child the right way. If you bring up your child the right way, even if there's a skit I've seen or videos I've seen where kids call cops on their parents. The cops come in, they hear what's happening, and they're like, man, go inside. You are wrong, or something like that. So it's not as if they are robots that are in the police uniform. They are human beings also, and they can reason with you if they know what is happening. So long as they are established that it's not an abuse, everything is fine. So we should not give excuses as to the law is the one that's causing. I know back home in Africa, it's a different ballgame. My parents they wouldn't even touch you, just only the eye.
Yeah.
And you're done for.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing I'm trying to instill with my daughter now. My daughter, as she was growing up, she takes her toys and hits it on the TV. The mom will say, stop. She wouldn't. But once I say stop, She's 2 years old. She's almost 2 now. But sometimes when she wants to do it, she looks back. If I'm not paying attention, she does it. But if I'm paying attention, she sees my face, and she just moves away as if she's not trying to do anything. So from now, she starts instilling it in them. This is good, this is bad. And from there, we can prevent all these knife cases you're talking about, and we blaming the law for it.
Okay, so just before we round up, Karima, very quickly, what do you think? Is the law giving children too much power?
Yes, the law is in place. I got two sides to it. It's good to have a law that says when people aren't abusing their children, because that's what it is. When you're beating your children and you're marking it, you're abusing them. But at the same time, they're not giving any support to the parents to discipline their children. The children are allowed to run wild. Yeah. When I was brought up back home, I left England at 14 and was shipped off to the Caribbean. What a culture shock. But I tell you this, if I was seen on the street at 6 o'clock in my school uniform, it's trouble. That's not here. I see kids 8, 9, 10 still in their uniform. They're not at home. Parents here have to work so hard. I think the UK has the highest rate for childcare. Parents have to work how many different jobs just to pay for the child, for someone to look after their child so they can work. They exclude so many, the percentage of Black children that are excluded from schools. To do what? You've excluded them because of behavior issues, but you haven't addressed what are the social issues in the home. Parents who come from different cultural backgrounds are immediately judged. Oh, you can't be smacking your children. But then give parents, how else are we supposed to manage the disruption and the poor behavior of these kids? I've seen kids, I know there's some kids are missing that was in school with my daughter. They were from African households. They sent them to Nigeria. Their parents said, no. They sent them to Nigeria. And then now I know my daughter was saying some of them have come back and they're above her with regards to their education and they're doing well. So that's what happened to me. My mum was like, oh, you want to run around? Okay, book the tickets. Bye. See you in 5 years.
Wow.
That's what happened to me. But here now there's laws against that too. I think if I knew that back then, there was a law when I was 14. I just didn't know. The law is in place to protect the children, but also it doesn't provide any support to parents. Then what? Don't hit your kids. Okay, then what? How do we, and some social workers come in and said they give them strategies, but every single child is different. So you need a different strategy for every single child. And now every time a child is rude or disruptive, they say the child has ADD, ADHD,
on the spectrum,
KEEE, K-BE, all these.
Right. Thank you, Karima. Thank you. Quickly, Yuri, what do you think? The law giving the children too much power?
That's why I said you need to raise your child. So this conversation, they had it in Renee's school. And when they had the opportunity for them to ask questions, Renee says, well, my mom has told me this, that you can look after me the way I look after her. So no police or no social services can come and remove me because I will probably suffer. And that is the gospel truth. And that is what I say. I tell my child, there's no one that can love you more than I love you. So whatever laws are out there and tell you to call the police, they're just wasting your time, because by the time you hit the streets and see the way things happen in foster situations, you will know that you're living a life of luxury. So I'm putting this in place now so that when it comes to you're out in the university, you would know that you don't actually need me, because I've raised you to be resilient and to be able to do things on your own. So that goes to the question, the law. The law is there to support. At the same time, as parents, don't let your hands off the leash. I always say this, because police will come and say, oh, this is how you need to do your child. That's not their child. That is your child. That child still bears your last name. As long as you're not abusing your child, you are in tune to their emotional issues, because obviously kids these days are very sensitive. They need to say what they need to say. Be that parent that listens. But I've always said it, I'm not your friend. I am your mother. And I would parent you the way I know better. And I know that I need to raise you so that you will not be a liability to the society. Let me tell you a story quickly before we close. I've got a cousin that at 13, she ran away. And we had to go fetch her from her boyfriend's home. And now she's a success. I'm sure she's going to kill me when she watches it. She's a successful lawyer now that she travels. She has all this high-end stuff. And one day, she works in the city, and she ran into this boyfriend of ours that she ran into. I've got nothing against builders, but this guy was a builder. No, I've got nothing. This guy was just a builder on one of these on one of these buildings that she works in as a top lawyer. And she was like, oh my God, that could have been my lifestyle. If her mother or me or the grandparents were not mad enough to go remove her from that situation. I've got nothing against builders, as I say this again, because obviously I need a builder in future. It's true. If we had left her to run wild, you know, the mother of this child, the boyfriend that she ran to at 13 was willing to pop her contraceptives. She didn't send that whole out. She was like, well, as long as they're in my house. But we're like, no, we're Nigerians. That would not fly. So we went to remove her and said, look, you would behave. She graduated with a first class in law. Today, she can carry a handbag and her Louis Vuittons and be like, yeah, I'm high flying. It's because we parented her. So I'm for one, I know the law is there. It's there for children like this 17-year-old that probably a father is abusing her. At the same time, the law should allow the parents to parent their children. Don't leave us not to be able to do things with our child. There's some kids that kids need to, even as an adult, you need to have boundaries. I can't be running amok in my office. There are check and balances. So if there's check and balances in place for me as an adult, why can't there be check and balances for a child?
True. All right. Well, thank you very much, Yori. I mean, I don't think we could have trashed this any better than we have done. I know a lot of people, a few of us that were on this panel are social workers, so we have to be careful with what we say. But at the same time, I think, you know, we need to do things, but within limit. There's a limit to everything. And I just, when I talk about culture, tradition, African tradition, Caribbean tradition, and all the children on the street stabbing each other, they must have come from an African background or a Caribbean background. So where are the parents? How were the parents raised? Do they not have that culture? You know, but anyway.
We have to be careful with that though, Celia, because some kids come from very good homes.
But unfortunately,
they go out.
Absolutely.
And their kids will sit with their grandmother on Sunday, and that's a sweet boy, and he's got a knife in his back pocket, and she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And it's not come from a dysfunctional, disruptive household, a good upbringing. They go out sometimes and get it. Always the parents.
Yeah. And I think as parents, again.
I know you're trying to close. That's why I have an issue. I don't understand why kids are hanging out after school.
Do you know, Funsho, I know you really need to go, but what I used to do to my younger sister, because she came to this country when she was about 9 years old, so it was up to me and my brother to raise her. And then she was, you know, she started secondary school and all of that. And what I used to do to her was, I'll give her money and I'll say to her, after school, right, go to Woolwich Market and get me fish, plantain, yam, spinach, and I'll give her a list of what to buy. So, and I'll tell her, you have to be home by 4 o'clock the latest, depending on what time they close. I gave her an hour to do that and be home. So she didn't have the time to be frolicking around Woolwich with her friends. And also, when she has to do all that shopping and carry spinach and fish and this and that, she'll be too embarrassed to have those shopping with her and be roaming around the streets of Woolwich. So she'll just buy and just come home. No, I can't play. My sister wants me home. You know, so sometimes we can't always parent. We can't be with our children 24/7. And I really don't know what we have to do. But as parents, we just have to be careful. And children, if you're watching this, make our jobs as parents easy, because we want to treat you with respect. But at the same time, you know, we want to make sure that we're bringing you up right so that you don't fall into the wrong hands. On that note, we're going to close it. We're going to end it here. Don't forget, we're on Pop Central TV, DSTV channel 189 every Sunday at 9 o'clock. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.